Coach Aaron. I wish you truly understood the pain you've caused me. As a kid, you taught me that listening to my body made me weak. You didn't just criticize my toughness. You were teaching me to ignore the very signals that my body sent to try to protect me. You called me soft, and you forced me to play through pain. You threatened to take away my spot for speaking up. You never built resilience. You built a system of fear, and you broke something in me. I was a child, and you were an adult. Someone I was supposed to trust. Someone who is supposed to support me, protect me, want the best for me, and not punish me for being honest about my body. Your constant criticism didn't just hurt me in the moment. It has continued long after the games were over. You taught me to silence myself, to question my instincts, to value performance over health. At 10 years old, I have lived with the consequences. I hope you have taken the time to reflect on the culture you helped create. I'm not the only one. There are countless young athletes out there, some still playing through pain, some walking away broken, because someone they trusted taught them that being injured was a personal failure. I'm writing this not because I want your apology, but because I finally have found my voice, and I refuse to stay silent about what happened. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my podcast, Silence on the Sidelines. In the previous episode, we talked about the role that parents have in shaping young athletes' mind and the pressure to lead young athletes to ignore their pain. Now we're going to be talking about the role of coaches. People who guide young athletes through their athletic journeys. My name is Elizabeth King, and I am a current high school senior, although I am about to graduate, and I am committed to play college soccer next year at Franklin and Marshall. I have a long history of playing soccer, both club and high school, but most of the trauma I'm going to be talking about today happened at a club level. For confidentiality and, for respect to the coaches, although they don't necessarily deserve it, I will not be saying their real names. So, I guess let's start. Like I said, I have been playing soccer for a very long time. I started playing club or travel soccer, as we call it, in second grade. Like, that was when I had my first tryouts and all that, right? So, very, very young. And my first set of coaches were actually great, and they're not who I'm talking about. The coach I'm going to be specifically talking about is the one that I had in my 8th grade, 7th grade, and freshman year of high school. Now, to keep him anonymous, I'm going to be calling him Aaron. I know it's not right to blame one person for kind of how I've continued to view injuries, but I think I'd be lying to myself if I said I didn't mainly blame him. Coach Aaron was a very strict and tough coach. Often players and parents would say that he wasn't meant to really teach, or rather coach, I guess, women soccer players, or I guess girls. He constantly made derogatory comments towards my teammates, me, and then also the girls we would play against. While that could be a whole podcast on its own, it's not what I'm here to do today. This podcast is talking about why athletes ignore their injuries, and specifically what coach's role is on that. And I think this gives me a great opportunity too. So Aaron did this thing where he loved to make everything a competition. You were fighting for your minutes, you were fighting for your respect, and you were always fighting for your spot. There was no sense of loyalty, really. Like, he didn't care if you had been on the team for years. You still had to earn every minute. He didn't care if you played another sport. He didn't care if you're the best damn player on that team. You better walk onto that practice field and give it your all every time. Which, in some aspects now, I really appreciate and I think are really valuable. However, he did not handle injuries with the level of care that he should have. A player cannot control the fact that they're hurt, and they shouldn't be punished or ridiculed for it. Aaron had this tendency to talk behind other players' back to their teammates. So I specifically remember when our center back at the time rolled her ankle and was not allowed to play soccer for a bit, he had me stay after practice and then told me that her laziness had lost her time on the field and that now I was going to get her spot because she chose to miss practice. I don't think at the time I really saw how problematic that is. I mean, I definitely knew that it was weird that my coach was like talking behind my teammates' back and that he was trying to fuel competition between us, but I didn't necessarily focus on the injury part. He pretty much told me directly that this girl was choosing to be injured. She was choosing to not be loyal to the team, and she was choosing to miss practice. She was choosing to not spend time with us. She was choosing to not go to our game. She was choosing to miss all of us. And he also turned it into something where I could benefit from her suffering. It's such a weird, messed up concept. Yeah. I mean, I just think it was like the micro comments that really solidified the way that I now perceive injuries. Talking about injuries as something like they can be controlled or they can be downplayed, I just don't think that's valuable at all. Coaches are meant to be leaders on and off the field. They're the ones that athletes look at for guidance, their motivation and inspiration. They're responsible for making decisions about players' safety and well-being. A coach should prioritize healthy performance, guide athletes to improve and excel, and making sure that they're not harming themselves along the way. But you see, what my coach did here was subtly tell me that by being hurt, I was doing the wrong thing. Now, obviously, in this circumstance, it wasn't directed towards me, and I think, obviously, the other girl should be more mad about this than I really can be, but knowing now that my chronic ankle sprains resulted in a significant injury and that I could have prevented them had I taken the time away from soccer when they were happening, makes me mad. Of course, I had internalized what he had said about the other girl, and of course, it resulted in me not wanting to take the time to recover or miss a couple practice because I'm hurt. It makes sense. Many coaches view toughness and resilience as key attributes to success. But as a result, some coaches push athletes to perform despite pain, believing that it builds character and helps the team. In fact, studies have shown that coaches often overestimate the benefits of playing through pain while ignoring the long-term consequences. Some coaches see athletes who tough it out as role models, even if doing so means ignoring critical warning signs of serious injury. When I think back to Coach Aaron, I think of how he really spread hate about players that were injured and were not able to practice. And I think about how I would leave every game just covered head to toe in like turf burn and bruises and all that. And he would call them like my battle scars, and he would talk about them as if they were displayments of my tenacity and grit. When I look back, I don't feel really good about that. I don't know. I was like 10 years old and I was hurt, and I was being told that hurting myself was a good thing. Talking about it now, I mean, it feels so uncomfortably weird. One issue with prioritizing the tough it out role model mentality is that coaches often lack the training to properly assess injuries. This means that they're not even necessarily seeing when we're hurt. They're just seeing a girl that's choosing to be there. Many coaches are not medical professionals and may not recognize when an injury is serious. When an athlete says they're in a lot of pain, a coach might just brush it off, assuming that this athlete is just being soft, and that pain is a part of the normal experience of playing sports. Here's where I also have to acknowledge the fact that my coach grew up thinking that being injured was weak. He is just as much a victim of this mindset as the girl he was talking about. He just made the choice to continue this cycle. And that's why I think it is so incredibly important to break the cycle and to stop normalizing this issue. Because clearly it's being reinforced, and there's going to be no changes made unless we consciously choose to make them. In youth sports, there's often a culture of toughness that is reinforced by coaches. This culture places a nice pedestal on playing through pain, and it creates an environment where athletes feel obligated to continue playing despite significant discomfort or injury. The pressure from coaches to get back out there can lead athletes to ignore serious injuries for fear of disappointing their coaches or being seen as weak. In a 2009 study, researchers found that coaches who had a high emphasis on competition and winning were more likely to encourage players to play through pain. These coaches, especially in high-pressure sport environments, may unknowingly foster an environment where athletes feel like their loyalty to the team is measured by their willingness to play no matter the cost, when that's simply just not true. Your loyalty to the team is about playing when you can play, making sure that your long-term health is there so that you can support the team. A common phrase in many sports circles is no pain, no gain. I almost cringe saying it. Many coaches subscribe to this. While it's true that hard work and dedication are essential to success, this mindset can lead to short-term victories at the expense of long-term health. It's crucial to note that the idea of pushing through injuries is often promoted by coaches who genuinely believe it will make their athletes tougher and have and are more capable in the long term. But this philosophy is increasingly being questioned because it should be. Another issue arises when coaches prioritize team success over individual players' health. In team sports, there's always a desire to put the best players on the field, especially during critical games or events. Coaches may feel immense pressure to win, and this can translate to pushing athletes to perform even when they're hurt. I feel like I've talked a lot about, what's the alias? I guess it was Coach Aaron, I called him. I talked a lot about him and how he did a pretty bad job of handling injuries. And now I'm going to talk about a coach that I think did a really good job. So, my high school coach, I can use his real name, I think, because I'm talking about him positively. My real coach, Coach Nam, he was the coach when I got hurt my high school season. And when I told him that I had hurt my ankle or whatever, sprained my ankle, he immediately followed up. He emailed and texted me to make sure I was okay. And he was the one that, after I told him that I was hurt and continued to play, questioned why I did that and told me the value of health and longevity over an individual game. He really changed my mindset, and I think of a lot of this podcast is really dedicated to how grateful I really am that I've finally had a coach who cares on an individual basis. When I said I missed the rest of the season following my senior night, I didn't really mention that those games were the most important games that my high school team had played in probably 4 years. Yeah, my whole high school career. My senior season, we finally had like a really winning, strong team. So we had gone to playoffs, and I was not able to play in playoffs because I was hurt. And I think it could have been really easy for a coach to sort of push me to play and ignore my injury, but Coach Nam consistently reminded me that I was more than just an athlete and that I could actually help him coach. Not only did he give me a position where I was still part of the team and still included in every aspect of it, but he also gave me the space to recover. Yeah, I'm just really grateful that I've had a coach that actually cares about his players. So I just felt like I would give him a shout out because I'm really grateful. Some coaches definitely believe that an athlete's personal discomfort can be overcome by sheer determination. However, this often leads to overuse, injuries, chronic pain, and long-term injuries. There's this mindset that like your team needs you, which is extremely compelling, especially to young athletes who want to make a positive impact. But it also ignores the seriousness of an injury. You're literally trapped in a cycle of pain and irreversible consequences. You can't win. Either you're harming yourself or you're harming your team. It's the worst position, right? You literally can't win as an athlete. The emotional impact of a coach pushing an athlete to play through the pain is so significant. Research has even shown that athletes who are encouraged to play through injury can develop mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and burnout. When coaches tell athletes to just shake it off, they inadvertently signal to the athlete that their emotions and physical well-being don't matter as much as the team's performance. This can create a disconnection between the athlete and their body. As athletes push themselves through pain, they begin to lose trust in their own body and instincts, relying more on external pressures that they feel from their coaches than their own well-being. In extreme cases, and in my case at least, I even began to question my worth. I know as athletes we often tie our identity to our performance. It dictates our mood, it dictates everything. You are your sport. So when we're not able to perform, even if it's just because we're hurt, we're nothing. I think the solution to this issue lies in educating coaches on the long-term consequences of ignoring injury and promoting a healthier mindset around injury prevention. Coaches should be trained not only in technical aspects of the sport, but also in basic injury recognition and management. Coaches, you shouldn't just let your athlete keep going if you know they're hurt. You have to encourage and promote a healthy balance between competition and athlete care. Your responsibility is not just to win games, but it's actually to foster an environment where athletes are taught how to safely train, perform, and recover. Your success should be prioritizing athletes' well-being. Teach athletes how to be self-aware, speak openly about their injuries without fear or punishment. Coaches, you play a crucial role in shaping an athlete's attitude towards injury and pain. While coaches' intentions are often rooted in a desire to help athletes succeed, their actions can inadvertently harm those they aim to support. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the role teammates play in the culture and how peer pressure can also contribute to the normalization of playing through pain. Thanks for listening to Sounds on the Sidelines. Coaches, please rethink what it means to be tough. And athletes, please take the time to recover.